Okay, good morning, boys. We'll continue with our learning. Make sure that your Gemara is open to the right page, Lamed Vav. It should say that in the corner. And also, you should have your notes open to page 22 at the bottom. You feel free to stop the video at any time so that you can take down notes. Okay, you recall that we're learning about a case where the owner gave an item to a shomer, and then the first shomer decided to give it to a second shomer. And the Gemara is discussing what happens. What's the halacha when something happens by the second shomer? So we saw that Rav said that the first shomer is chayav, and the second shomer is whatever happens. It's up to depending on who the second shomer is and what happened. He might be patur, he might be chayav. And Rabbi Yochanan disagrees. Rabbi Yochanan said that this first shomer is chayav, and we had discussed already the Rashi that explained Rav's opinion. That was back in question 13 in your notes, and now we're going to discuss a very short Rashi which discusses the following. On the inside of the page you see Rashi says Dibur Amatil is chayav. So the first question that I ask you is, who is Rashi explaining? Which opinion? Well, obviously he's explaining Rabbi Yochanan's opinion, because Rabbi Yochanan is the one that says that the first shomer is chayav. So Rashi explains that he's chayav, meaning afilu be'onsin. When Rabbi Yochanan says the shomer is chayav, he's chayav even if an onus happens. An onus, as we learned in the beginning of the year, is when something unpreventable happens. It is kidnapped, it is stolen by armed robbers, or the animal dies a natural death, or something strange that happens, the shomer couldn't prevent it. So again, this happened under the care of the second shomer, and yet, says Rabbi Yochanan, the first shomer is chayav, even though the second shomer could not prevent it. So 14, question number 1, whose opinion is Rashi explaining? Is Rabbi Yochanan. How do you know? Because Rabbi Yochanan is the one that says that the shomer is chayav. 14.2. According to Rashi, what does chayav mean? When Rabbi Yochanan says chayav, he means it's chayav even for an onus, for anything and everything that happens. Regardless of what happens, the first shomer is chayav. And the question that I ask you now is, can you explain why? Why should the first shomer be chayav even though what happened by the second shomer, and what happened is something that the first shomer and the second shomer could not possibly prevent? So some of you already explained in class, the reason is simply because the first shomer is chayav, not because of what happened to the item, but because the first shomer gave it over without permission. So that's what Rabbi Yochanan is blaming the first shomer. It's not that you're chayav because of what happened to the item. What happened to the item might have been something unpreventable, but the first shomer is still chayav, according to Rabbi Yochanan, because the first shomer had no right to give it over to somebody else. So now please turn to page number 3. We're going to clarify exactly what's going on. Question 15. According to Rashi, the machloket between Rav and Rabbi Yochanan is about the following issue. Is the first shomer allowed to give it to a second shomer? So Rav holds that the first shomer is allowed to give it over. And the halacha regarding the first shomer, whether he's patur or chayav, depends on what eventually happens. As we learned before, that if what happens by the care of the second shomer is something that the first shomer is patur, then he remains patur. But if what happens by the second shomer is something that the first shomer himself would be chayav, for example, if the second shomer is poshea, he's careless, then the first shomer is chayav, because he's chayav for those types of things, even though it didn't happen under his care. So according to Rav, patur means it's limited. The first shomer may or may not be patur. Rabbi Yochanan holds that the first shomer is chayav regardless of what happens, and he's chayav because he has no right to give it over. The debate in the Gemara is about the first shomer. This whole debate between Rav and Rabbi Yochanan, they're debating what is the halacha of the first shomer. Is he patur, is he chayav? Does he have the right to give it over or not? But it is not, continue in your notes, it is not affected by the fact that the item was given to him by a shomer. Okay? So the halacha over the second shomer is a chayav or patur depends on what happens. What happens? Was he careless? Then the second shomer is chayav. Did it die naturally and he's a shomer chinam? He's patur. So the halacha of the second shomer is not affected by the fact that it was given to him by a shomer or by an owner. The whole debate is about the first shomer. The first shomer is the one who's doing something unusual in this case, and that is he's giving the item over to somebody else. But the halacha over the second shomer is clear. That we know from the Torah, that it depends on who the second shomer is and what happened to the item under his care. So we put the two things together, and that's how we decide whether the second shomer is chayav or not. So the Gemara is not discussing the second shomer. There's no need to discuss it because we know his status according to the Torah. Okay, now we're going to go a little bit further, and that is, if you look in your Gemara, now Abaye is going to explain. So you find a place over here where it says, Amar Abaye. Abaye says, Abaye is going to explain the debate between Rav and Rabbi Yochanan. Letame de Rav, according to the reason of Rav, who said that the first shomer is patur, lo mebaye shomer chinam shemasale shomer sachar. There is no question in a case where the first shomer is a shomer chinam and he gives it to a shomer sachar. Deiluye alia lishmirato. So he's really improving the protection because he went from a shomer chinam who's doing a favor and is going to a shomer sachar who is paid and he has more responsibility. So for sure he's patur. Ela afilu shomer sachar shemasale shomer chinam. But even in a case where he went from a shomer sachar who gave it to a second shomer who is a shomer chinam, the gruye gar lishmirato, where he is decreasing the level of shmira because he went from a paid watcher to somebody doing for a favor, patur, Rav would still say that the first shomer is patur. So what Abaye is saying is that when Rav says the first shomer is patur, it doesn't make a difference if the first shomer increased the shmira, the protection, or decreased the shmira by giving it to a shomer who has less responsibility. And this is very surprising. My time, and what's the reason that the first shomer remains patur even in a case where the level of protection decreases? Says Abaye de hamisara le ben das, because he gave it to someone who's a ben das. A ben das means a person who's capable, meaning the first shomer gave it to a second person who's also capable of watching, and therefore the first shomer is patur. What this means is as follows. When the owner gave it to the first shomer, he's trusting the decision making of the first shomer, that he'll do the right thing, and that is that he'll protect it and he'll know how to deal in case there is a crisis, and he will keep the item safe from danger. But also he's trusting that if he needs to give it over for some reason, that he's going to choose a person who's capable of watching. So it's understood that the first shomer is trusted by the owner. And therefore, if the shomer gives it to another shomer, even if that second shomer has less responsibility because he gave it to somebody who is a shomer chinam, he's still going to be patur according to Rav. If you now look in your notes, let's go to question 16. Abaye explained the debate between Rav and Rabbi Yochanan. Let's translate. Letame de Rav, according to the reason of Rav. Lo mebaye shomer chinam shemasale shomer sachar. There is no question in a case where a shomer chinam gives it to a shomer sachar that he's still patur. Deiluye alia lishmirato, because he's increasing, he's raising the level of shmira, of protection. Ela afilu shomer sachar shemasale shomer chinam. But even in a case where the first shomer is a shomer sachar and he gives it to a shomer chinam who's doing it as a favor, the gruye gar lishmirato, so it turns out that the shmira, the protection, is decreasing. Patur, he's still patur, he's still excused. The first shomer is still patur. My timer, what's the reason that the first shomer is still patur? Deha misara le ben dat, because he gave it to someone who is capable of watching it. Question number 2. Then Abaye explains the opinion of Rabbi Yochanan. So we go further in the Gemara. Uletame de Rabbi Yochanan, Lo mebai shomer sachar shemas le shomer chinam. There is no question, according to Rabbi Yochanan, that if a shomer sachar gives it to a shomer chinam, that he's chayav, because the gruye gara l'shmirato, because he's decreasing the level of shmira. He is a shomer sachar and is giving to someone who is watching it for free. That's less responsibility. So Rabbi Yochanan would hold that in that case, for sure, he's chayav. Ela afilu shomer chinam shemasar le shomer sachar. But even if a shomer chinam gives it to a shomer sachar who has more responsibility, the iluye ale lishmirato, he's improving the level of protection. Chayav, according to Rabbi Yochanan, he would still be chayav. The amarle, because the owner can say to the first shomer, ein retzoni sheye pigdoni biyad acher, because I don't want, it is not my ratzon, it's not my wish that my item should be in the hands of somebody else. Meaning, I gave it to the first shomer, and I don't want you handing it over to somebody else. Let's go into your notes, please. Bottom of page 23. Letame the Rabbi Yochanan, 3 lines on the bottom. According to the reason Rabbi Yochanan, Lo mebai shomer sachar shemasa le shomer chinam. There is no question in a case where a shomer sachar gives it to a shomer chinam, the gruye gara lishmirato, that he is decreasing the level of protection. Next page. Ela afilu shomer chinam shemasa le shomer sachar. But even if a shomer chinam gives it to a shomer sachar who is paid, the iluye ayla lishmirato, that he's increasing the level of protection, chayav, according to Rabbi Yochanan, the first shomer is still chayav. The amarle and ritzoni sheye pigdoni biyad acher, because the owner can say to the first shomer, I don't want you to give it over to somebody else, meaning I trusted you, I don't want you to give it to somebody else. Question 17. What is the chidush of Abaye about Rav's opinion? Chidush meaning that what is surprising, what's new about Abaye's explanation about Rav. 17.1. What's new about Rav is that even if the shmira level is decreasing, Rav would still say that the first shomer is potter. That's surprising, because I would have thought that, okay, the first shomer is potter if he puts it under better care, but not in a case where the level of shmira went down. And Abaye claims that even if the level of shmira goes down, he's still potter. So the chidush is, what's unexpected is that Rav would still say potter about the first shomer even if the level of shmira goes down. And conversely, 17.2, what's the chidush about Rabbi Yochanan's opinion? Rabbi Yochanan said the first shomer is chayav. What's surprising is that the first shomer is chayav not only if he decreases the level of shmira, but even if he increases the level of shmira. So we see that Rav and Rabbi Yochanan hold opposite views. Rav says the first shomer is potter even if the level decreases, and Rabbi Yochanan says the first shomer is chayav even if the level of protection increases.